Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian Farmhurst, Strike Trade Group, and this is your end of day market recap for Monday, July 17th, start of a new week. I'll go over the index charts with you just a little bit. We'll talk about the week's events. Before we do that, risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. So another interesting day in the markets. Again, very difficult to I think anyway, to try to predict what the market is going to do on a day-to-day basis. This was the second time that we basically have had like not so great of a Friday, maybe a little bit of profit taking on Friday, especially last week was such a strong week. And, a bit of a reversal on Friday, which, again, is perfectly normal. But it's the second time that the indices and the markets have really kind of bounced back and shaken off that Friday price action. So interesting. I kind of think it's a little bit of, and I'll have to explain this phrase as soon as I say it. But it kind of feels like a little bit. Today felt a little bit like the calm before the storm. Now I'm not anticipating like a storm in terms of volatility, but just a lot of information that's going to be coming out this week. When we look at the calendar and Earnings Whispers does a great job at just kind of laying out the calendar for the week. Remember, we're going to get the Fed speakers are going to be in a quiet period pretty soon. We're not going to have to worry about the Fed and that meeting until next week, next Wednesday. We will get retail sales out tomorrow, but it's really going to be more we're going to be kind of, I think, shifting the focus more towards earnings season and individual names, a little bit about what we talked about in Friday's video. And really, there's going to be some interesting reports tomorrow. The banks are going to report tomorrow. We'll see what they say. They really historically are not so much of a market mover. They're kind of interesting to hear what they say about the consumer and about loans and so forth, but they're not really as big as market moving as when some of the bigger, tech names report and consumer discretionary names and the communication names and semiconductors. So if we kind of look at the calendar, I think Wednesday is going to be an interesting day because we're going to get after the close, we're going to get both Tesla and Netflix that report. Also, United, IBM. IBM is not one of those names that's going to move the market, I think, either. But still, will be an interesting data point to see how they're executing. And then things are, once we get through Wednesday, Netflix and Tesla and a couple other ones, then things are really going to pick up, next week as well. And so that's what we have in store. And for now, it's one of those things too. Just looking at Costco that, we had a nice move up here. S&P was up 30, or S&P futures were up, I guess 30 basis points, was it? Let me bring up my spreadsheet. SPY was up 35 basis points, but where the outperformance was in IWM, small caps, micro caps, and the Qs had a nice day today as well. And it really just kind of felt like a grind higher type day. So I will go through these with you really quick just to show you kind of where we're at and if there's any resistance ahead. We're kind of right in the middle right now between the prices, right in between the middle of the July top of value and a virgin point of control, which could be a place where we see a little bit of pause in the price action, but we're not there yet. That level is 45.97. The Qs did take out a virgin point of control on let's see where on I think that was Thursday, and there's that digestion on Friday, but we're now above that level. So, again, whenever we get to one of these virgin point of controls, it is basically a little bit of a battle between the buyers and the sellers, right? Some overhead sellers, some people who may have been waiting to sell. It's their high volume areas that have not been revisited. So buyers need to kind of, overwhelm the sellers. A couple of things to note here before I go to the small caps, but we are above value. We're slightly above where we were on, I guess that's Friday in the beginning of the day. And 30, if you're looking for some type of a check back, right, or a place to kind of add more risk, 376 would be possibly an area to do that. I always say possibly because you have to see if price is going to hold there once we do get down there. But it's important to kind of map this out and to know where your levels are. Interesting, and this is why I wanted to review this S&P chart, is because I sent out these levels in the morning on Substack, but I mentioned 45, 65, 75. Notice where we got to. Right, in S&P, we tagged that. We did not get through it. There was some pretty nice action, around like 3 o'clock, I think today, which kind of brought us higher. Right, as a 315, right? But so that's the level to watch. Again, this doesn't mean anything like in the in the long term. We're looking at just the value area for the week, so it's short term looking, right? But I would watch this top of value. We did not get through it on the first attempt, right? And so this is where we hit last week. And again, it's, sorry if I said this wrong, it's 40. This was the high. If I said that wrong, it's 45.59. Apologies. All right. And so you could write that down. Small caps. Also, they made a big move today, right? I mean, this is also, a lot of digestion around this virgin point of control, right? We actually had a pretty decent fade day on Friday in the small caps, which I think we're down. The first time that we've seen a big, red candle in small caps in a couple weeks. And but the market was able to shake that off today. And here's where we are again. Here's a level to watch for you for this week, is 193.68. Okay, so again, a big journey, right? This is where we started, right in the middle of the value area, and we came all the way to the top. And it looks like we went a little bit further than that and are tucked right back in. So 193.68 is a level to watch. So there are some index levels to watch, right? And next I'll go through some individual names. We'll talk about the price action. Tesla was a nice winner for me today. Again, I talk about this quite a bit during earnings season. I talk about it quite a bit when there's like an event, when Apple has one of their developers conference, or they have some other product announcement, or when Tesla has an event that's coming up. I always like buy the rumor, sell the news type trades, right? Looking for a run into the event. And I think that's kind of what Tesla is doing. They did have some news over the weekend about the Cybertruck, but ultimately, I got what I was looking for a move pre-earnings. Now, we are seeing some positioning and options in Tesla, and it's going to basically be what they say on their earnings call and how upbeat they are, right? That's an important thing as we are just kind of or have just started earnings season. It really is, in my opinion, right? You always hear about what the company did over the quarter, but really, companies are going to move more based on what they say in their earnings call, as well as what their guidance is going to be. It's not so much if they beat earnings last quarter. A lot of that is already priced into stocks. So don't be upset. And I always see, younger traders on Twitter, they're like, well, I don't understand. They beat earnings. Why is the stock down? Right? Because it really depends on what they're going to say. Like if the stock has run up tremendously, then they're going to have guidance that's going to be very good, right? Because a lot of it is priced in, right? Younger traders, they don't understand that the price moves, right? And price is my opinion, is forward looking. So it's not going to matter so much if they executed that's in the past, right? Whether or not they beat earnings, right? It's going to be what they say on the earnings call, how upbeat they are about their future prospects, and the guidance that they put out, right? So for example, if a name, and again, I'm just making up things here, but if a name reports earnings and they beat handily, right? They beat very well, but they guide down on their next quarter, the stock's probably going to sell off if it's had a decent run, right? So just something to bear in mind. So here we are, we've taken out this virgin point of control. I took my profits in this name. I could bring this up for you. I don't always bring this up because this is a little bit of what we do during the day. But yeah, I mean, I took a couple profit targets, 291. And this is a couple times obviously that I've reloaded on Tesla throughout this year. But and I'm still bullish on Tesla. Like even though I think that they're going to have to deliver on earnings. I ultimately think it can go to 320, right? That's something that you've heard me say a lot over the course of the last few months, and it's moving that way. But it might provide a little bit of, who knows, even if it sells off a little bit, right? That I'm actually would be rooting for that at this point, because that would be a nice place to kind of add it, provided that they're still positive on what their prospects are and so forth. But that's my kind of thought for that. So I'm holding a small piece, and that will be gone in my trading account and before they report earnings on Wednesday. Next, one of our watch list names, Apple looked like it, Apple was the strongest out of the bigger names, right? The FANG names, or Magnificent Seven, which I hate that term, but it's easy because everybody knows what stocks you're referring to. This did resolve. This was, I think, the strongest out of that group, and a nice move into some consolidation here in the 5-day moving average. And Apple's basically been doing this all year, for the last 6 months. As soon as it kind of has a little bit of digestion or a test of support, it resolves higher. And even after this move, it was kind of quiet last week. So just a couple, inside type moves, and real nice price action for today. I was just going to review a couple other names too. I mean, this is a screen that I put together, and I put this show this to members at the end of every day. But these are names that are breaking out on 3 different time frames: the weekly chart, the daily chart, the 1-hour chart. And these are not names that are real extended, right? So like an SMCI is not going to be on here, and NVIDIA is not going to be on here because it's extended on one of its timeframes. So we build that into the scan, and you can kind of see right now we have a pretty diverse group. It's the first time for a while that I've seen tech actually have a decent amount of representation on this. And it's kind of interesting, a couple of the names that are on here that I wanted to share with you. I think NXPI is on here. This is a name we talked about a week ago, and I finally just took a shot in this trade because it just did consolidate a little bit in here. So I think it ultimately goes up to 222 in the super short term, right? Because again, this name's going to report earnings next week. 222.10 is something that I'm looking for, and I did take a couple targets in this today. Sticking with the semiconductors, which had a nice day today, by the way. Here's Teradyne so again, looking at the weekly chart. Now this name is going to report as well next week, but look at how it's resolving out of its value area for the year, right? So it's a pretty fresh break, right? Which is kind of what we're looking for in that scan. And here's what this looks like over here. Workday's another day too that had, software had a nice day. Software and semis had a nice day today, as well as solar, which I will go through a couple names here. Workday, ultimately 235 could be the place where it could rise up to. And notice it just got outside of its value area for the day. Going back to our spreadsheet, I just wanted to make sure that you saw this. Solar, clean energy, very strong. Those were your best performing groups. One of the names that I like is FLNC. This is, I believe it's Fluence Energy, really strong. When it came in here back into the close to the 50-day moving average, it bounced nicely, new highs. The solar group is very tough because, in my opinion, it's very tough because if you look at this ETF, do I want to buy this ETF? Not necessarily. It's sideways. And so are many of the names in here. First Solar is one of, wrong chart. Oh, there we go. For Solar, a little technical difficulty for you. Took out one of these version point of controls. This is another name, and you're going to hear me say this a couple more times in this video, right? It's going to depend on earnings for a lot of these names, but this name reports next week, right? And it did take out one of these version point of controls. We'll see if it has some continuation, but this is, like I said, it's a tough group. This is not where the momentum has been for the year. It has some days, it's had a couple, it's had some days this year where it'll be particularly particularly strong, and then there's no follow through. Here's one that again is trying to trend, right? It's above the 200-day moving average, above the 50-day moving average, and all the other short-term moving averages. This is SHLS Technologies. I know everybody seems to like this ENPH. I don't like it because I'm a trend trader, and it really hasn't done much this year. It's still it's still in a downtrend, way below its 200-day moving average. But no, what could turn this around is earnings, which are going to come up. SETG saw some calls today too. I didn't take them. The chart is just too sideways for me, even though this group definitely had momentum for the day. A couple other names. Caterpillar is trying to break higher. This is another name that's going to report earnings. So again, it's kind of tough to really get position in some of these names. Costco, which is a name I got long about a week or two ago, is making a nice, I think I got long on this break here, right? And then it kind of stalled when it reported same store sales, came back and checked into the top of value, and a nice day for Costco. So, impressive in there. Some other software names, and you could kind of pick and choose. I traded some of this DOCN. Remember, DOCN was very strong about that was about a week and a half ago, I think it was. Made this nice move, a little bit of digestion, was weak on Friday, right? There's your opportunity, that weakness on Friday, and a lot of growth names, could have provided a buying opportunity for you. This is one that we put on the watch list for the week, and was particularly strong today. Going back just to the software, to the semi space, ACLS, what a nice move here in this one. Also, another one that I kind of group in this group, AEHR, really nice follow through from earnings last week. And then sticking with these small cap ones, ALGM had a really nice day today, up 4% after a little bit of an inside type day after this big move last week too. So small cap semiconductors, very strong. So I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it here. There's a couple other stocks I was going to talk about. JP Morgan also broke higher today, but we'll leave it here. There'll be a lot more to kind of go over as the week unfolds. Nice trading day overall. Really can't complain. The breadth was strong as well as a confirming factor. We'll leave it there for the day. Have a great night. Hope to see you in the trading room. We start our pre-market session every morning, 10 after 9 o'clock, and go right to the open. Hope to see you there. Have a great night.